Welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365. We are officially one day out from the NFL draft. 24 hours plus 12. Do the math, everybody. 36 hours until the NFL draft kicks off. One day from today. That'll be tomorrow night. Thursday night is round one. That kicks off at 8 p.m. Friday night is rounds 2 and round 3. That kicks off at 6 p.m. And then Saturday is 4 through 7. That kicks off at noon. So we'll have you covered here on JAKIB Sports through it all. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother, as we inch closer and get really close now to the NFL draft?
I'm doing well, trying to get here, man. Desperate to get here.
Yeah.
I want to stop the information, the flow of information, not the silly season, the this, the that. It never ends. So hopefully that people stop playing games and we can get to the actual meat of the matter, so to speak.
Yeah, we'll see what's coming up now. And the meat of the matter is going to come inevitably, Johnny Mac. So we will talk about all of that. I saw yesterday just a couple news, little bit of news in Eagle land. Jalen Hurts graced the cover of Men's Health magazine. John sent me that.
Disrespect.
I was cracking up with the Johnny Mac text yesterday. He's like, yeah, major disrespect. Another magazine cover for Jalen Hurts. So, but that was pretty cool. He talked about that. I think Jalen Hurts confirmed he's a married man. So congratulations to him. And then, John, I was also following up on the Bleeding Green Nation Top 30 visit tracker. And there was one name added that I don't believe we've referenced. And it's Kevin Winston Jr., the safety from Penn State. I don't know if that was a most recent report, but I saw that this morning or yesterday, and I'm like, I didn't remember him being on there. So that's the latest, too. Another safety that was the Eagles have brought in to visit. They're taking a safety somewhere in this draft, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work on the defensive backfield as a whole, and, they lost a lot of players, trading C.J. Gardner-Johnson, losing Isaiah Rodgers, Avonte Maddox, Darius Slay. That's a lot of players that played a lot of meaningful snaps. So you got to repopulate. That came from Tim McManus late in the process. Kevin Winston. I don't. It's one of he's a Penn State guy, so that might have been local. That might have been top 30. That doesn't really matter, but they've done the homework. And yeah, he's a big time player. He was a big time player. Penn State got hurt last year. Jalen Reed, who's another player that the Eagles took a look at, replaced him and did pretty well. Obviously, Penn State had a very good season last year, but they'll bring that up to Jeff Kerr because if they don't win, it's a unsuccessful season. But they were very good. He's a very good player. Probably second round pick, I'd say. Potentially. And again, I don't know if it'll last all the way to 64, but it's possible, it because of the injury that'll impact things to a certain extent. And, a lot, again, there's, you hear it all the time. This guy's a first round pick. This guy, well, they can't all be first round picks. You can't have 57. So guys will start to fall down the board. And so when you put out your projection, people, there's no way he'll be there. Well, yeah, there is a way he'll be there. There's also probably a way he won't be there, depending on the prospect. And that's been one of the most difficult things about this draft because the wide range of ceiling versus floor for a number of players. Starting very early. Two of them, have been speculated a lot to the Eagles, and Walter Nolan being one of them. I mean, he might go number 9 overall.
Yeah.
And people got him dropping 32 to the Eagles. So a lot of wide ranges for players.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Johnny Mac. I saw some of the intel you put out yesterday on a guy like Nolan and Shamar Stewart. The ranges on some of these prospects is truly, I think, the best storyline of the draft, John. We talked about how this draft can be, sometimes it feels boring, but that, in my opinion, is the best. Like, where could Shedeur go? Top 10, he could go round 2. Shamar Stewart could go, all the ranges of the prospects is very interesting to me. So we will see how that shakes out. I did see some of your other tweets. The Jackson Dart hype does seem to be boosting in a big way. I saw the Connor Hughes tweet yesterday, as you've talked about here on the show. So a lot of different news coming in here, information gathering, John, as you if you will, before the NFL draft. But John, you did put out yesterday your Eagles only mock 1.0. We got to do it, Johnny Mac. We got to talk about that to the people. We'll have Mike Gill coming up. We'll have Brandon Lee Gouton coming up. Let's do the Eagles only mock from John McMullen here on Birds 365.
Yeah, well, let's first understand it. No trades because it's a waste of time.
I'm
I'm a curmudgeon, blah, blah, blah. So it's more about, it's more about putting the players in a potential position because Howie is going to make some trades. But I'm not going to sit here and he's going to trade with, the Tennessee Titans in the 4th round. It's nonsense. And anybody who tells you that kind of stuff is just, and it's fine if you're just trying to have fun. That's great. But I'm not bothering with trades. So it's just about players that could potentially be there. So I tried to break it down in the 1st round. If you're trading up, you're staying put, or you're trading back. And, the theme to me, gathering information leading up to the draft has been they're going to take a traits player. And by that, I mean, they're going to take a guy with a huge upside. So, texting around with people yesterday, there's like this thought process that if you're like 5 to 10, you want to get out potentially because 20 might be the same as 5 to 10.
Right.
And then there's the process of 20 to 50 is the same. So it's basically, or not the same, but very similar as far as grading standpoint. So that's why you have all these wide ranges of where people will land, and you'll see somebody in the top 10 and somebody at 32. Because that's what I've seen with both Walter Nolan and Shamar Stewart, who are two people the Eagles are very interested in because they have high traits. So the thought process is likely, well, we're getting a guy with we're getting a guy with a bigger upside. And that's generally teams that have confidence in their developmental systems and abilities have that feeling more than teams that don't, like Chicago. I'm picking on Chicago already. So that's, and the Eagles have, to the point, they have a lot of confidence. Some would say it's bordering on hubris to be able to turn people into something. So that's why you start talking about players like Stewart specifically, because his upside is insane, but he didn't produce at the college level. So there's a lot of people that will be scared off. So same thing. It starts with New Orleans at number 9 because they need defensive front help. Now, you also have a new head coach. It's always a thing with new head coaches because I've seen it with Jacksonville at 5 with Liam Cohen. A lot of people have Mason Graham going to Jacksonville. They're taking an offensive player. Might be Genty, might be Tyler Warren, might even be Ted McMillan, considering it's Jacksonville. Yeah, he's in the mix. They're taking an offensive player. In the case of Aaron Glenn, he wants a defensive player with the Jets. Now, they might have to hold the line because there's just not probably anybody who's going to help them there. And there's probably going to go Membu, Tyler Warren, somebody like that.
Yeah, right.
So in the case of Kellen Moore, I'm sure he wants an offensive player. Sure. I'm sure he does. But they have such needs on the defensive side of the ball. It's interesting political football. And a lot of people have speculated that they'll go edge rusher or even Walter Nolan. And Stewart's been brought up there at number 9. And you got people in Philadelphia saying, because I put Stewart as the 32nd overall pick to the Eagles. Oh, that'd be a shitty pick. He might go top 10. He might. It wouldn't shock me. And if he doesn't go 9, he might go 11. If he doesn't go 9 and 11, then he might go 32. Then he might start falling. But that's sort of the wild stuff you have in this draft. San Francisco is at 11. They want an edge rusher as well. So, again, it's favorite flavor. There's a bunch of good edge rushers. And even though you never, I don't want to overstate it and say you want to be at 32. But of all the years to be at 32, and again, you want to be at 32 from the Super Bowl. I think people understand that. I mean, from a draft standpoint, you obviously don't want to be behind everybody in the moment, is what I'm trying to say. Obviously, you want the Super Bowl. So I hope people understand what I'm trying to say there. But of all the years, this is the year that, you know what? It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Because you're going to get probably a chance to bet on one of these higher upside players that could end up being better than guys who are drafted 14 or 15.
Yeah, you got to have the right infrastructure for that, though, John. Like, are you telling me that the Eagles are one of the teams that potentially cares more about traits than they would about like the game tape because they feel like they have the right organization to develop the player as you need to?
I'm not saying they're very traits based. They've always been very traits based, but no, they don't ignore production.
I'm not saying ignore it. I just mean like a guy like Shamar Stewart is really a perfect example. He jumps off the page in traits, but not really.
Well, there's this stat that came out recently, relative athletic score. You know, we talk about it all the time,
right?
Kent Lee Platt, but with edge rushers specifically, if you're over 255 pounds and you get like a 9.85 relative athletic score, the history says you're going to be good. You're big and you're explosive.
How long have they been using that score?
Well, Kent Lee Platt, he came up with it, I don't know, 10 years ago, somewhere in that range. But he's used the data available to go way back.
Okay.
Since the beginning. That's the thing about data. You can use data
exactly
previously before somebody came up with it. So, they understand those types of things. They've always been at the forefront of analytics and that kind of stuff. But no, they don't ignore the film. You saw it in recent seasons when they shifted towards just taking successful college players from Alabama and Georgia. So it's always give and take. But I think in this year, and generally, by the way, most of those players end up being very good athletes. It's not like Devontae Smith's a bad athlete, or Nolan Smith is a phenomenal athlete. Jordan Davis, for his size, was historic. Jalen Carter, I mean, they're all great. It's not like they're taking, in other words, it's not like they're taking a plucky Georgia kid who was a 2-star recruit. That's not a great, they all happen to be great athletes as well, plus production. So, yeah, you'd prefer to have, well, he's a great athlete. He's got great traits. He's got everything to be a star player and the production, but can't always get that. It's easier to get that in the top 10, but so then you got to make a difficult decision. In the case of Stewart, he's got everything you need from an athletic standpoint. He brings some size that they don't have. And there's also a part of it which the Eagles will never admit, but there's certain guys that they trust more than other guys on the coaching staff. Stoutland would be obviously number one, but Jeremiah Washburn's high on that list as well. He's the edge rushing coach. So I think there's a lot of trust in him that he will get the most out of whomever, and kind of saw it last year, at least in splashes with Alex Hunt, very raw prospect, and everybody's excited about. So yeah, they do believe in their ability to develop players, and some teams are scared of that.
Yeah, no, I know. You want to run down your picks, Johnny Mac, on your Eagles only mock 1.0 that you put out? Your 1-0, your 1.0 and only Eagles mock here for the people on Birds 365.
Yeah, well, like I said, before I went on my tangent, I did sort of go trade up, stay put, trade down. Trade up would be Walter Nolan. That's the guy. I mean, that's the most Eaglesy pick in the draft. I don't think ultimately he'll fall to a spot where they can go up and get him, but to me, he'd be the perfect pick. But I think it's very unlikely. If they're forced to stay at 32, I would say it would be Stewart or Malachi Starks, very high IQ player who could fit, day one as your starter opposite Reed Blankenship. Trade down, I think it's Femi Oladejo from UCLA. Same thing I talked about with trade space. I mean, they love that kid from everything I've gotten. And he's under there's a lot of teams in the NFL. The 49ers love him as well, I've heard.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams.
I've seen him anywhere from round 1 to round 3, John.
That's what I'm saying. He's an underreported guy who might go number 1, who might go in the first round, not number 1. Might go in the first round. Right. That people go, oh, one of those whoa moments. That's a potential possibility. I think he's more well-liked in the NFL than people realize. So ultimately, I landed on Stewart, but those are your possibilities, I think, in round 1. And if you don't get Walter Nolan, round 2, I went TJ Sanders, the South Carolina defensive tackle, sort of a poor man's Walter Nolan. A lot of day one hype with him early. He's kind of slowed, and I think he might get pushed down the board a little bit. And there's a guy who could help you right away.
Yeah.
And if you get him, I think that's tremendous value. Round 3, I went with Jacob Parris, the corner from Kansas State. Again, I talked about all the bodies they lost in free agency and on the trade market. They just need to repopulate the secondary.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's a guy who played outside of Kansas State, but he projects inside. So right off the bat, he could be a backup in the slot. He could be a backup outside.
And then in a perfect world, potentially, could that be your replacement and the slot if you did want to push Cooper to the outside? Is that how you
Yeah, exactly. If Kaylee Ringo falls on his face, if you're not confident, I think that's more about down the road, but not this year because Adoree Jackson's here as well. But round 4, I went Jalen Travis, the big Iowa State offensive tackle, because I do think you want the heir apparent to Lane Johnson, and he doesn't have to play right away. You can stick him, you can redshirt him, and he's just got everything Jeff Stoutland would want, but he does have to get a little bit stronger. So it works on both sides. You can spend a year in the weight room and start ramping up. And then round 5, they have those 4 picks. And I'm sure Howie's going to move around the board, and I'm just trying to put players in potential slots. And, one guy focused on a tight end, because I don't see how you're going to be able to get the tight end earlier, is Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame, who's, to me, maybe the best blocking tight end in the draft. And he's a better receiver than people give him credit for. Not the most explosive receiver, but has very good hands. And I think he could be a starting player, tremendous value, and help the Eagles right away, too, because he can block. And, if they do draft him, he'll be the best blocking tight end they have the minute he steps into the complex. So I think that's a good value pick. Jaden Blue, the running back from Texas, we talked about, they had him in, really good if the Eagles ever go this direction. Really good out of the backfield, catching it.
Interesting thing about him is just not what I expected the Eagles to want at that position with Saquon.
Well, I mean, it's not about now. It's about the future. Right. Yeah. And he's a very explosive player, very fast. But really, he's got and again, longer term prospect project. not a very good pass protector. So if you're going to be a third down back, you got to pass protect. So that's number one. Jalen Smith, the DB from USC, just what I said. They got to repopulate the secondary. And he's another versatile player. He played safety before he moved to corner, projects the slot, so he can play a bunch of different positions. I think he's a good fit. And then Kobe King, they got to get a linebacker, the last pick from Penn State.
A lot of top 30 visits there, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, the Eagles have had a history of drafting guys they bring in. Now, a lot of times I always bring up Darius Guy. Sometimes you bring in a guy to rule them out. But I will say this, when you start talking about day 3 guys like Blue and King, you're not bringing them in to rule them out. Now maybe the visit went poorly. That's always possible. I think people don't think about it that way. You could have a bad day. And that's why I bring up Darius Geis back in the day, who got in a fight with somebody, depending on who you believe. Not a physical fight, but a verbal fight. And things can go in a negative direction. But it's all just an educated guess and speculation. So
good stuff. There it is, Johnny Mac. Johnny Mac's 1.0 Eagles only mock. Pretty good names, John. I like it. Shamar Stewart, you'd had first. Again, this is just a mock, everybody. Shamar Stewart first. You had TJ Sanders in the second round. Jacob Parrish, the cornerback from Kansas State, in round 3. Iowa State offensive tackle Jalen Travis. Notre Dame tight end Mitchell Evans. Texas running back Jaden Blue. USC defensive back Jalen Smith. And Penn State linebacker Kobe King. There is the Johnny Mac Eagles only mock draft. Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. John, let's get to Mike Gill, who's going to join us now here on Birds 365. See what Mike has to say as we're one day out